California is kind of on fire right now.
Yeah.
So that
I'm
was
in I'm in New York.
the city.
I'm in Westchester now, but yeah, I just got back from New York City. That's where I was watching the uh the DNC.
Oh, look at that. What was I going to say? Wait, Haps is make your news report highly visual. Show us, don't tell us. All right, so I'm going to start using my hands. Um,
What?
I
I
kind
don't
of
even know if
promised
I
my.
okay.
What did you say?
I'm like what I'm now reading. Okay.
Yeah, they're. You see, part of me is kind of nervous that that's actually, the guy from Habs and he's criticizing us.
Probably.
Oh, Brett says, "Hey, from Los Angeles." Yeah,
What's up, Brett?
being in LA
Hey,
kind of
Mark.
deterred me from this, but I didn't realize how late the DNC went. Like, I feel like that's way past half of their bedtimes.
Oh, what, the candidates?
My dad says move to the right. I don't want people to see my hair. Yeah, it was weird. It was shockingly well produced. It,
That's what I'm saying. Like,
it,
especially for these Zooms, I guess, or whatever.
yeah.
Hey,
And
Mark.
again, it's so crazy how archaic and simple the value of hearing a politician sound like an adult really can be, because the thing is, if I were watching the DNC, in a normal year under normal circumstances in normal times, I would have seen this event as absolute nonsense. I would have been shocked by how poorly they set out the platform and communicated it. But under these circumstances and in these times, that was an inspiring event.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I thought, honestly, being loving comedy, I thought Julia Dreyfus was
I mean,
hilarious.
always.
But there wasn't, I agree with you that there wasn't much policy tonight. And there wasn't much policy really all week. But I guess that's what reading's for. Reading is fundamental after all.
Yeah, if I had a dollar for every time they didn't mention Medicare, I'd probably be able to afford a Medicare in the United States right now. It is crazy how blatantly they ignored Medicare during a national health crisis and a global health crisis and a national job crisis.
It
That was
definitely, and I mean even a living wage. But I'm glad Andrew Yang hit on it tonight a little bit. But
Andrew was. I'm so glad he was able to get on, and that just goes to show just how effective Andrew's online organizing is, and how he'll be so helpful to the Biden campaign. Is that campaign was the underdog internet hit of the year. So I think that the Democrats can organize online and can make something effective. But there were so few young people. Did you notice that?
there weren't any young people. There were not. I mean, I guess Andrew would have been the youngest.
Andrew Yang, the Democrats' resident young person.
Andrew would have been the youngest. I guess Pete's pretty young, fairly, or just looks young. He still has
He
good
looks
skin,
young
I
in
guess.
some shots, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, no, I think that the Democrats. Well, you know what? I feel like us young people have not pulled our weight in terms of voting and in terms of voting. And, you know, we really, really need to keep on being as disruptive as possible and organizing. But when we didn't show up in 2018, we kind of dug our own grave in terms of getting effective representation and an effective enough seat at the table from Joe for president, because they saw we didn't show up to the polls like we said we would, and that
Well,
has
if you don't
consequences.
mind me asking, who did you vote in the primaries? Who did you vote for?
Well, the primaries were happening right around Florida was when voting got weird. But I had already sent in my ballot for Andrew. I really liked Andrew. I knew Andrew wasn't going to get the nomination, but I still worked as hard as possible to get him out there. Uh, hey, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
All right, sorry. I got a FaceTime on your
Everybody's
phone.
telling you to, yeah, everybody's telling you to move to the right. But I know you don't
Okay.
want to show your hair, but I guess, I mean, my hair is not great either.
No, come on, man. That's nonsense. It looks terrific. Who were you supporting in the primary?
So I was actually supporting Joe. I've kind of
Oh,
been with Joe for a while now.
well,
Only
look
be
at
only
you.
yeah,
Look
only be
at where you are now.
only because I've known him for a while. Like I got to meet him in 2015, and then I'm a sexual violence survivor, so he brought me on to work on his It's On Us organization, and I got started
Was that
working like
2011?
I think I don't know when It's On Us actually started, but I started doing the It's On Us had to start. It started in the Obama year. I should know this. I should know this.
I
But
mean, I was probably like 13 anyway. No matter what, I was probably before I ever had a job. But
but even during Hillary, I supported Bernie. So I kind of switched, but I did support, I guess, two old white men.
well, there you go. And two guys who, I'm you know what's crazy? I was very much on the I wasn't very enthusiastic about Joe until quite recently when things started to get much worse. I wasn't really hyped about Joe. I was thinking, yeah, I'm going to vote for Joe. I'm going to do the Joe thing. It's whatever. There are plenty of congressional and, Senate wars to be won and plenty of
When you
victories to
mean
come.
worse, are you
But
talking about civil unrest or the pandemic or
I'm talking about
which
just
which
the
worse
whole
are you
the
talking
whole
about?
facade, falling apart harder than ever. But he sounded so good tonight. I gotta say, Joe was the second to last guy I was planning on supporting before Bloomberg in this race. But tonight I watched it, and it made me. I felt like I did back when we had a president.
Yeah.
I was looking at somebody and I said, we're really here. Having a president who will address racism and gun violence as great issues in our country. You know, it sucks that that's enough now, but that's enough.
I mean, I feel you when you say it sucks that that's enough, but the fact that we haven't had legislators in office willing to take up issues, I mean, you being affected by gun control, I mean, it's wild. It's fucking wild the way that just our politicians haven't been working for us at all. At all. Like me, being a man of color, definitely dealing with prejudice my entire life and seeing that nothing's really changed, then being a gay man and having to fight for, somebody asked me today, what did Obama do for you? Like Trump's the man. What did Obama do for you? I'm like, oh well, okay.
Yeah,
Health
just made it
care.
legal. Yeah.
Healthcare made it legal for me to marry,
I was at
and
a performing arts camp, which where there were so many members of the LGBTQIA plus community over there as
you better
Obama
QIA plus up in this bitch.
plus. Um, and there were so many members of the community because, of course, the performing arts community is so diverse like that. And the day that it got announced that gay marriage was finally legal, the vibes at camp were just so on. I've never seen that kind of joy come from politics before. I was very young. I was going to all the Obama events back in 2007 and 2008. I was so excited about Obama's campaign, and I remember I actually didn't know the difference between Sarah Palin and Tina Fey at the time because I was so young. I thought they were the same
These
person. I thought she
they
always
pretty
went
much
on
they
SNL.
became the same person.
Yeah, they still
They
are.
pretty much became the
They're
same
both
person.
characters
That's so
portrayed by
true.
Andy Kaufman. Um, but anyway, I remember the first great national joy I was ever to really feel connected to and really feel a part of was the day we found out that gay marriage was legal now. First of all, I'd kind of forgotten that it wasn't, because it seemed like such a ridiculous notion that two people couldn't get married.
Hmm.
But, I remember just seeing everybody put on their rainbow shit. It was amazing. It was inspiring.
For real. I mean, now, and I see like Dark Side of the Moon. I love that album, the Pink
Oh
Floyd
yeah,
shirt.
man.
You
I'm
forgot you're wearing that shirt.
I'm just I'm a teenager with messy hair and a patchy beard, wearing a Pink Floyd shirt, wearing a ring that says "fuck the NRA." What do you want from me?
I need to get one of those.
Oh,
I'm
they're
talking
on
about
changetheref.org. Like Manuel Oliver, who's amazing gun violence prevention advocate, makes this merch for them that is just definitively the drip, and it's amazing. And so it's so funny. Some of the pieces of merch are very tied to gun violence prevention and to the memory of his son Joaquin. And some of it is just Manny kind of going off. Like there are rings that say "end gun violence" and "fuck the NRA," but then there's just one ring that says "fuck off," and I'm like, I love it. I love how he goes off like that. Let me ask you something. What do you think was the most, what do you think was the coolest move that the Democrats pulled, in the sense of, being a little brave or a little disruptive in such an establishment-fueled event?
the boldest move.
What did you
I
see and go, wow, damn, nice?
What? Sorry, I didn't. I'm trying to read. I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. I'm not good at this, I guess.
Somebody wrote proud, period, capital
And our
NR, lowercase a member. I'm a proud second grade and above grammar student. Thank you very much.
Oh, wait. They want me to answer one of these questions before I answer your question.
Fair enough.
Zeke, what made you switch to Biden on a policy front? What made me switch to Biden on a policy front is I truly believed that he was the person who could really bridge the left in terms of progression and the right. I definitely have some things I'm conservative about, and some things I'm liberal about, and some things I'm extremely progressive about. I don't really have anything I'm extremely conservative about, but I thought that Biden could bridge that gap, and I think that that's what we need in politics.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be in touch with any sort of community that has been oppressed in this country and and theoretically speaking, want the government to have more power. But Joe I mean, he is getting a lot of conservative support in a way that I didn't fully expect to see. And the Trump campaign is really flopping in their attempts to conflate Biden with the entirety of the left. You see, Trump is going out there and saying Biden wants to defund the police and Biden wants to destroy the suburbs. And no matter where you are on a policy spectrum, it's irrefutable that Biden is not the left.
Right.
Like the left or hate the left, Biden's not the left. Biden is the center, maybe a center right. So Trump's campaign is really running out of any insults about Joe that don't just come after his physical
Sleepiness?
health. Yeah, it's like, okay, Joe Biden's old. Donald Trump's old too.
Old as
Okay.
hell. Karen has a question for you, Cameron. I'll ask it to you. I have two young 24-year-old businessmen clients. They have never voted because they say it doesn't affect them. How can I convince them that it does?
Well, I mean, it doesn't affect everybody, right? I would do just fine in Mike Bloomberg's America. Theoretically speaking, I'm alive in Donald Trump's America because I'm not on Donald Trump's hit list. I'm not somebody that is the target of Donald Trump's culture. And when you're voting and you feel as though voting doesn't affect you, you're blessed and privileged if you're right, because there are some people that voting doesn't affect. Yeah, and it's when empathy comes into play that you realize that voting is essential, because I could live my life free of prejudice or free of being attacked for who I am and not be voting and not be caring, but it's It's not about, a vote. Casting a vote in this country per the America that we need to be is not a vote for you. It's a vote for everybody. So, it's easy to look at it as a vote for you because so much campaigning is kind of directed at you. So you want to take it like that. But Bernie said it best, and Bernie continues to say it best at the DNC, showing his support for Joe Biden. This is not me, this is us, right?
I, I feel like that's what I've learned the most during the pandemic is, I'm out there trying to advocate for us, for more people than just myself. Even the simple gesture of wearing the mask, yeah, but it's more so what can I do to lift others up? What can I do to benefit somebody else? And if that policy is going to make somebody else's life easier, why not go for it? Like seeing these young people out in the streets, younger than you, definitely younger than me, out in the streets making so much noise about Black Lives Matter or equal pay or anything really. It's inspiring because I can remember when I was their age, meaning 16 or even younger. I've seen 8-year-olds in the street. I was not marching. Now I'm much more of a activist now per se, but I was not marching back then, and it's really inspiring to see the change.
Well, yeah, and I think that something that reigns true for different movements like the gun safety movement in this country and the It's On Us movement and most activism based, group ideas and groups of people, one of the big, most common things you'll see, especially these days, is the hijacking of somebody's narrative and people with specific political interests taking someone's story, their identity, and their experience and using it as something for their own gain. And I'm sure this is something you've faced so many times in your own activism and speaking out. It's a simple fact that the shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School would not have had the political strength that it did if it were not a predominantly white school. I mean, Parkland is an incredibly socioeconomically privileged community. It's a community that I was able to live in and stay in an ideological and, and socioeconomic bubble my entire life without really understanding other people or what other people had to deal with in a really, really disappointing way. And the fact of the matter is, when violence hits different people, it's reported on and treated in different ways. And one of the things we're seeing with Joe right now, one of the things we're seeing with his campaign, is they're finally addressing the fact that people's stories are being stolen from them and people's voices are being yelled over and hijacked. So now that there's this obviously concerted effort to go out and allow people to, change the world with their own voice without trying to take it from them, it's a game changer, and it's something that a lot of people are really happy to see.
So listening to you say that, I just want to know what flipped the switch for you, because going through that moment and taking back and realizing, I was in a privileged community and now this is happening and now I'm able to speak on this platform, but you didn't have to. And
Well,
you don't have to keep doing it. So
it's
that's so powerful to
you
me.
know it's disappointing, but it's important. It's disappointing in this country how many people do not get involved with something until it directly affects them. And on the one hand, a lot of people do get involved, and even though it may be too late, in a sense, it's never too late. So I only got involved in the gun violence prevention community after I had lost friends and after my community had lost so many wonderful people. So it's hard to look at the world and realize that you became an activist because you had to, whereas there are people in other communities who need activism to survive. Activism wasn't survival for me, it was retaliation. And there's a massive difference between activism that's done to make a change and activism that's done because there are people who desperately need to be saved from the United States, a country that is a honeypot that will attract people and then abuse them. So,
100%. It's definitely a honeypot. And I love that you just said that, and in a way you're making me reflect on myself and my own activism because, if I wasn't sexually assaulted, I wouldn't be a sexual violence advocate. And that's kind of something that, I just like checked into. But, I have members of my family who were sexually assaulted, and even my mother worked at a domestic violence shelter, but it was never something that was impactful to me until it did impact me. And I still I feel that, we were given an opportunity to rise up and speak. So I'm kind of, in a way, just gonna take that moment like you just kind of just checked me in a sense.
well, no, it's crazy because there are so many people in this country and far too many people where survival is its own form of activism. I mean, I've been to communities that I would have never stepped foot into if it weren't for political involvement, where a kid just getting up and going to school that day, walking to school, down the street, that's a form of activism because they are living in a situation that's designed against them. So activism and the word activism has a lot of different layers, right? I mean, people are conflating a lot of things with activism. There are people who tweet all day, like my stupid ass, who are deemed activists, and there are people who are being attacked at their homes and targeted by the Trump administration that are being called activists. So it's a multifaceted thing. And at the end of the day, as long as something touches your heart and affects you and you're able to turn that into change, you're doing the right thing. And it's not about when you started, it's about the fact that you're reaching out to people. And that's so much of what it is, right? Is just getting somebody to care about something, because the most effective thing we had going for us for March for Our Lives, the thing that was our greatest our greatest draw to people in the country, our greatest message. It was simply people looking at the TV and saying, you know what, that could have been my kid, right? I mean, they looked up and they saw a bunch of kids crying and demanding change. I was being a goofball even really early on because I wanted people to, be able to look at a community like Parkland that had been reported on so many times. Sandy Hook had been reported on. Uh, Aurora had been reported on, communities that are small and that people want to feel sorry for. We wanted people to realize that anybody can make a difference, even if you are the, proclaimed a victim or somebody who's been hurt, but nobody should have to. I mean, it's part of the American promise that you shouldn't have to fight for your life. So being able to live without jumping into the fight is no shame. It's simply it's simply a period where you can develop as a person without putting it all on the line. And I'm sure that your levels of stress and anguish have drastically increased since you raised your voice out, right?
1,000%. It definitely, it, in a way, in some ways it gets easier, in other ways it gets harder, and the easiest thing I get to do every day is open my inbox every day and see other survivors and or people pouring their hearts out to me, talking to me about, their violence, or talking to me about things that they haven't even shared with anybody else, and asking me for my advice, and I'm really just there to listen as a vessel. I think there's no better way to help somebody than to just listen. Because not enough, hearing you tonight, sitting here to you tonight, I'm like, shit, I'm listening to A man telling the shit, like goddamn.
Hey man,
But
I'm a sad little Jewish comedy writer. I can make anything sound grim. I can mess with words and make anything. It's what you learn. It's what you learn in college is how to make things sound like that. But it's not normal times. We're in a situation now where people who would have never have been forced to raise their voices are being pushed into spaces of activism that they never expected to see, especially at a time when leaving the house is dangerous, right? And it was
leaving the house is even fearful. I
it's
mean, there's I I jokingly, and even it's not even jokingly, my one of my very good friends lives in Austin, Texas, and he's not really liberal, but he's liberal. Let's just call him liberal. He's liberal, but he has so many guns. He doesn't know what to do with them. Hey, and I, on the other hand, I'm kind of fearful of guns, but I I understand why people have them in this moment.
100%.
I understand the fear, and I've never felt that until this pandemic, until this moment of civil unrest. I've always felt anybody with a weapon doesn't need one. But now I understand why people have that fear.
No, I
And
mean,
I'm sorry even to
yeah.
say this to you right now. I feel like I'm
No,
doing
dude,
something inappropriate, but
it's hard to be in a community that's getting directly attacked by an armed government and not, wonder would I be safer if I had been armed. I've got guns in my household. They're not the big army guns that people use in modern warfare. They're not the guns that can kill dozens of people in a matter of a few minutes, but there's safely stored guns, all of which my father has kept far away from my siblings and I in the house. And it makes sense that people want to protect themselves. A lot of people are being thrown by the government into unmarked vans for
unmarked
organizing
vans into
protests.
just gone, disappear into what they're calling something centers, but basically they're taking homeless people off the street and just shipping them off. They're
And the
putting them
crazy,
pretty much into mini prisons.
I'm
Well, they're
as
not
as a
mini, they're fucking huge.
as a member of the Jewish community, I face this big issue when I'm talking to my conservative and honestly, even some of my liberal friends who are Jewish. A lot of people say, "Well, it's horrible and it's blatantly immoral for you to compare what Trump is doing to the Holocaust. Millions of people died in the Holocaust. You can't say that Trump, who he's not throwing people in concentration camps. He's not doing these things. Well,
But in a sense, he's letting, and it's not to compare to gassing and genocide and whatever, but in a sense, he has released a virus on people that is uncontrollable. He's got record level of sickness and death and poverty and health, and people are dying, getting sick every day for the past 4 years. America is a slow death in a sense. And the way that he's now released the military on people, and the way that he's now weaponized against the media, and the way that he's destroying all our institutions, it is very authoritarian, and it's straight out of the book of Hitler, Mussolini, Putin. Like
and
it's,
and
and I'm
it's
gonna I'm gonna let you finish before I start being like Kanye.
no, man. Hey, I'm bipolar, and I tweet when I'm in manic
Oh
episodes.
my
So
God, you're
everybody here is
bipolar
acting.
too. Oh my
If,
God, we're gonna be best friends.
yeah, are you? I'm thinking of making a union of bipolar people who will agree to delete our Twitters as long as Kanye does. Are you down?
I'm down. I'm
Okay,
down.
brilliant. Well, anyway, I it's just the it's a really difficult position to be in, to ask yourself, am I part of the bad guys? Do you know that meme from that British sketch comedy show? Are we the baddies?
No,
Um, well, you got to check it out.
I gotta figure it out now. Okay.
It's hard to watch all of it. As I grow up, I learn more about the rise of Nazi Germany, and I learn more about the rise of authoritarians everywhere. And it's hard not to watch the way our country's been since even before President Trump, and not question what the morals of this country really are. Because I was in an AP US history class where I was learning about slavery as part of the economy and learning how much of an economic thing it was for the South.
Hmm.
I was learning about how the different attacks on indigenous people were part of the culture, whatever the fuck. But I was being taught revisionist history, and children in
Hmm.
schools are currently being taught revisionist history. I learned about the largest white supremacist attack in U.S. history from a fucking comic book TV show. The same TV show where Jeremy Irons. Oh, never mind. Don't watch The Watchmen. I'm not going to
I
spoil
did.
it.
I watched the Auschwitz. I
Okay,
watched it.
everybody
Go
else
ahead.
stream. I'm literally not going to spoil it because I want you all to watch it. But on The Watchmen, a show that features a naked blue man who is shiny and has full frontal nudity, was also how I learned about the bombing of Black Wall Street. And that says a lot about how education plays a part in making this a country fueled by white supremacism and by hatred. And that goes to show that we are behaving a lot like the very, very dangerous people, and a lot like the people who have been oppressing one another. So I, it's tough to see this country start punishing activists and journalists. You just saw Putin fucking poison some dude willy nilly, and it's
Nobody said anything. At least
no
from our
nobody
government.
fucking said
Nobody
anything.
said anything. Not the Secretary of State, not President Trump, not any of the military leaders, not even senators. Like, we are actively sliding towards autocracy. And the reason why we're doing it is to go back into, or keep, not even go back into, because we're in a caste system. America is a caste system. It's white, black, other. That's how it's always been. Well, before there was slavery, but it became a caste system after really 1964. The laws didn't change for everybody. They just changed for the few, and you got, that's the definition of white privilege. It's actually you are privileged because you're white, because you are in that group. And there actually are black people who have gotten white privilege. Like, you can look it up. Like, there was a woman in 1910 who was deemed white because she had made a bunch of money and was employing a bunch of white people, so they gave her white privilege. it's it's wild when you talk about the way that that we've been taught things. Like, when I would go home from school, and I remember doing a book report on George Washington, and I'm reading the book and I'm doing the book, and I read it and it says George Washington was nice to his slaves. And my mom goes to me, "Well, what does that mean, Joshua? Can you be nice to a slave?" And I'm like, "No, but it says it right here." So she, of course told the school that they should have this book, pulled or informed, but this is what we've been taught. And that is why I can't get mad at a lot of my friends and even a lot of my elders, because they were miseducated. But I can get angry that they don't want to educate themselves after realizing that they've been lied to.
Yeah, just because you've
If you just want
survived.
to stay in the lie, if you want to stay in the lie, then that's just being complacent, and that really proves that, well, I'm fine being superior. I'm fine,
Yeah.
not caring.
Being able to survive to a certain age does not mean you did it in a system that's just. It just means that you happen to be able to get there. Congratulations. Um,
Even
and
after
that's
World War II, when when the Jewish people came here, it's not like they were like loved, and given hugs, and like, oh,
yeah.
welcome to
Hey,
society.
what's up, fellas?
Like they still went through some shit, still go through some shit.
I have a
How many times growing up were you teased for being Jewish?
I can think of a small handful, but I can tell you that I'm currently staying with friends who have been cast in TV shows and movies and then told that they were too Jewy looking for it. So it's something very real. It's something that exists
Right?
on a high
It
level.
exists.
And then you start to realize that the language that is so prevalent in the country and the one that's being perpetuated right now is hate. And the list of people who are not being targeted by this administration is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And then all these people are saying, well, Trump, how could you have stabbed me in the back? I thought you were representing me. And people are coming to the realization that it was a lie. And there is there's one political party. It is the hyper rich billionaires like Donald Trump, like all the nasty
There's
characters
only
out there.
one. The party wants to just keep things the same. If you notice, they haven't gotten shit done in like 15 years. Like shit's just
And it's
without executive orders, or when the Dems got a little inch. It's wild. My mom wanted to go on the Alabama bus movement in the 60s, but she had us kids. Well, Ron, I appreciate you, my man, and I
I
appreciate your
appreciate your
mom.
mom. Yeah, exactly. Appreciate you all. I actually always I very often reference the movements in the 60s because one of the things that always made me feel really weird and awkward during especially the March for Our Lives movement and especially our efforts going around the country was when people would compare us to the civil rights movement because I'm thinking, you've got civil rights heroes like John Lewis who have bled for their causes and who are targeted for who they are and who have put their lives on the line expecting absolutely nothing in return for what they believe in. And then you got me in my banana pajamas, and my Pink Floyd shirt, you know, my friends are playing video games downstairs, and I'm being hailed as some sort of activist. Fun fact: I'm looking at the stream right now. This is why I have my laptop, and it says activist next to my name. That's because the people who run this app changed it. I put jackass, and you know, but activism is changing, and we have to understand that. People are organizing on TikTok. I hate TikTok, but TikTok has been a space for people to organize and to be disruptive. So
TikTok scares me. Should I get on it?
it's very difficult stomaching that. It's very difficult stomaching the fact that this is what activism has become. It's just as much part of our new capitalist society as possible. And then you realize, after all the talking we've done tonight, after everything we've considered, we're watching the DNC, we're getting disappointed about shit. It's Joe versus Trump, for God's sake. It's Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. You can have a guy who is, pretty off on a bunch of the issues, or you could have a guy that comedians couldn't have thought of in their worst nightmares. In
You wouldn't have wrote him up. I mean, you're a dark comedy, and shit's getting dark.
I mean,
I
like
mean, tear
what
gassing. Portland, like that's some shit.
It's awesome shit. I mean, I'm from Florida. I literally went from I went from New York City to Florida to escape the new epicenter of the pandemic. I went there for safety. Then I go to Florida, and now Florida's the fucking epicenter. Everywhere I go, coronavirus is gonna follow me. I was at the Sundance Film Festival, which was supposedly one of the first petri dishes of coronavirus in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was on 20 flights between January and March. The fact that I haven't gotten coronavirus is its own sort of fucking privilege. It's insane, and the world is just in a very slow burning and boring apocalypse. And
Why do
that's
you
why people.
think? What do your friends from other countries say about
I'm
us?
actually with my friends from other countries and with my friends who are immigrants. from South Africa, and everybody. I mean, the thing is, Trump is setting new norms around the globe, and I was on a flight actually to Washington D.C. for some political bullshit with a gentleman whose father was a military official in Africa. And he said that his father sat him down and was just talking to him about the way that their government was functioning. I don't remember which country it was, but he was saying that they would shut down the Wi-Fi in cities, send people in to brutalize the residents, and then just turn the service back on as though nothing happened, and nationally gaslight these people that they're attacking. And he said that Trump has set a new status quo around the world where, you don't have the United States doing its own problematic watchdog work, which is, its own issue. You've got the U.S. basically saying to leaders, you can do whatever you want. You can be as fascist, as problematic, as abusive to your people, as corrupt. You see Netanyahu's just a absolute fucking joke. Oh my God, somebody's going to kill me for saying that.
No, I'm glad you said it because I can't, but I'm going to second it.
Okay, yeah, I gotta tell you, man, I think there's a very, very, very effective way to say that you love and support the Jewish people and are proud to be part of a wonderful community and to support a wonderful community, and also say that leaders who abuse human rights and want the blood of a specific people spilled are bad. And I'm very, very disappointed in a lot of people that are part of my community for not being able to speak up on that. But anyway, Trump has given a green light to people like Bolsonaro, who you've got Nikki Haley praising. Nikki Haley, who's about to be the fucking leader of the Republican Party, is coming out here saying Bolsonaro, who's a villain fascist.
Villain. Idiot. Well, not even idiot. Like, he's dangerous.
It's like when people say Trump's a fascist, Trump's base will say, no, he's not. That's ridiculous. How dare you say that? When people say Bolsonaro's a fascist, everyone in Brazil's like, yeah, fuck us. Am I right? But so at least they've got that national self-awareness that we've seemed to lack since.
Oh, they 100% have that national self-awareness. And, yeah. But it seems like the only people who are getting shit done is Lebanon. Like, what's it going to take for us to overthrow this guy?
I mean, like, you know what? If the United States...
Are you scared when he said that he wants to run a third term? Like, what if he wins and then doesn't leave again?
Well, theoretically speaking, and by theoretically I mean legally speaking, probably a good idea to separate legally and theoretically.
Legally.
Big difference.
Legally is a big word right now.
Could you imagine me in a deposition? They're just like, I'm just like, theoretically speaking, I did in fact, commit voter fraud. But anyway, it's bizarre, but apparently if he refuses to leave and if he suspends the election until after January 21st, Pelosi's president.
Nancy becomes president.
Yeah, so she can go presidentially, not endorse Ed Markey for some reason. But, sorry, half the people on this live stream probably. But, I think it's just, I can't think about
You don't even want to think that way. You don't even want to
I can't even imagine 4 more. You want to talk about a third term? Talk about a fucking second term. I can't imagine what it would be like because we couldn't have imagined this. There was an inkling in my head, and this is coming from a white cisgender male who's lived very, very comfortably my entire life. Part of me said there's no way he's going to be as bad as he seems he will be, right? Now, a lot of people in this country knew damn well he was going to be as bad as he seemed he would be, but I was blessed enough and privileged enough to be in a circumstance where I was able to hold on to the benefit of the doubt that society can still stand up. And
I'm an optimist, so I always had to say, maybe he'll change, maybe.
Not even change, just not spiral so quickly.
Yeah.
And he's talking about strengthening the military. Meanwhile, I was actually talking to a conservative associate of mine a couple days ago. He was saying that we do need to strengthen our military and that our military is deteriorating. And I said,
who are we fighting? I'm like,
Well,
who
no,
are we fighting?
I said to him, we currently have soldiers deployed at war with 9 different countries right now. Can you name them? And then
Crickets.
he did not name them. He named a couple of them. Um, and I don't know them, so it's not like I'm saying I'm any smarter than him, but that's the fucking point, is that people don't know what's going on in the military. You know, if you want to learn about military surplus spending, watch the episode. Have you watched the episode of The Office with the surplus, where some of the people want to buy the new chair and some people want the printer?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank God, because if you said no,
Yes.
I would look like an asshole.
Yes. Yes.
But,
Yes.
but you know, it's crazy to see the way they're campaigning. It's crazy how blatantly racist. Well, okay, pardon me, it's not crazy, but it's
Well, I can't
just.
believe that we're still spending, $32 billion for a plane and we can't feed our people.
I mean, like Mike Bloomberg can, in a
Mike
split
Bloomberg
second,
could literally solve
a
hunger.
lot of things. He could help a lot of people, and instead he was buying. Did you see the billboards that he bought that were like, Donald Trump eats burnt steak, Mike likes his medium rare? Okay, what about the voters in the country who liked burnt steak but believe that Black Lives Matter and believe in the LGBTQIA plus community and you know, are good American people? Are you saying that people who liked burnt steak are bad, Mike Bloomberg? You're spending all this money on these billboards. Why don't you do something that's got any meaning? But no, it's just he was just waving his Bloomberg around, and we all just had to sit there and take it and listen to our grand.
Waving his Bloomberg around. All right, you're gonna have to write that down, file it away, and put that in something for sure.
Yeah,
Is
stop and frisk
Josh
that,
Rush
Mike
going to
Bloomberg.
save Ed Markey's campaign?
Um, is Josh Rush going to save Ed Markey's campaign? I'd like to think so. Josh Rush is an excellent guy. They're lucky to have him on Ed Markey's campaign. Anyway, so before we let these poor people who've had to watch us talk this long go, I've got a big question for you as somebody who has the longevity with Joe that I simply don't, who has the history and who has seen the way that Joe and everyone around him have progressed over the past couple of years. What do I say when people who are on the left that I really do respect on the internet are calling me a piece of shit for supporting Joe? You know, because there's some people where it's Joe or Trump, it's not enough.
What I've been saying, and I'm kind of cynical at this because one of my friends was arguing with me about Joe's the military industrial complex and he's not doing enough and I can't support him and all I can all I'm at the point now where I can't convince you to support somebody who literally stands for everything that you stand for except for maybe 4 or 5 things, but you're deciding to not participate in democracy and elect Agent Orange
Oh,
because why? I just like to turn it back because I I'm done arguing. I'm done with the argument of okay, this is the nominee. This is where we are. We have what 75 days. This is where we are.
it's
I
75, yeah.
I agree that he's not perfect. I agree that there are things that I don't like that he's standing for. I'm not running. You're not running. But he is, and he's the only person in the race with a chance to win Kanye West who can fix things.
But but Kanye West has that big silver costume from his God Jesus space opera that made him look like the blueberry girl from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Remember her? Was it Violet? It was Violet, right? He looked like Silver Violet, like had sex with Barney the dinosaur and
It's the
gave
best
birth.
meal ever. Mm.
Oh my goodness.
Blueberry
No.
pie.
Okay, everybody, we've officially put together a live stream that's even more offensive than the DNC. Congratulations. Vote for Joe Biden. Josh, could we do this again soon?
Please, Cameron,
All right.
you're my new best friend.
Likewise, bro. I will force them to connect us.
Yes,
All right.
definitely.
Big love, man. Talk soon. Thanks, everybody, for sitting
Bye.
through this.